An artist called Marina Abramović did a piece of performance art a few years ago where essentially all she did was she set up a chair and a couple of tables in the middle of the room, and she sat on one side of the table, and you could come and sit on the other chair, and she would just look into your eyes for as long as you wanted. I wonder, if you imagine doing that, how do you think it would make you feel? I came across an article of photographs of people who'd sat with her. Each photo was labelled with how long it had been before they burst into tears. So this is 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 9 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 14 minutes, 18 minutes, 28 minutes, 29 minutes, and then 2 hours and 44 minutes. It's really powerful to be seen, isn't it? I wonder if part of what you're seeing in those people and those tears is relief. The relief of not needing to try and get someone's attention. Relief from the exhaustion of trying to be seen, trying to earn the approval and the attention of the people around us. Because here is this woman just looking at you. I think many of us spend our lives, a lot of the time, exhausted by the attempt to earn the approval of the people around us. It might be feeling that we need to live up to the expectations of our families, or it might be trying to make sure we never let our friends down. Or it might just be that we feel we need to keep being enough to get people's attention, to get people to like us. There's a really great song in the film Encanto that's all about that pressure, and it has this haunting line in it, under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. And that's exhausting, right? If our sense of identity, our sense of what we are worth, comes from the approval of others, we will always have to keep fighting to keep that up, to maintain it. It will be exhausting. And I think that's why there's such a massive kind of swing against that in our popular culture. Think of songs like Let It Go or This Is Me. Actually, loads of the big songs, the big films, the most popular kind of self-help books, they all have the same basic message. Don't depend on what other people think of you for your identity. Ignore what other people say. Don't look around to find your identity. Look inside. You do you. Just be yourself. But the problem is, that is exhausting too. Because even if we stop trying to earn other people's approval, if we want a sense of identity, if we want a sense of what we are worth, we'll just have to earn our own approval. And I think that a lot of the time that's actually harder. Think about how it would feel if, rather than sitting opposite Marina Abramović for that long, you had to just sit and look at yourself in a mirror for that long. How would it make you feel? I actually, weird as it is, thought I should probably do that as an experiment for the sake of this talk. So at home I just went and I sat and I just looked at myself in the mirror for a while. Do you want to guess what happened in my head? As much as I didn't want it to, my head just kept on assessing myself, judging myself. Noticing noticing the bits where I hadn't shaved properly, starting to think about how weird freckles are as a concept. Just noticing all of the things that I didn't really like about my face. And this is not about just sort of physical appearance. My point is that the message, you just need to accept yourself just as you are, is a lot easier said than done. We all need a sense of identity. We need a sense of what we're worth. And whether we try to get that from earning the approval of the people around us or just from earning our own approval, either way, it will be fragile and it will be exhausting. And of course, sitting opposite a stranger in an art gallery is not a long-term solution either. I mean, in some ways, that sense of being seen wasn't actually real for them. Because Marina Abramovich doesn't know these people. She doesn't know who they are or what they're like. She doesn't love them. She is just giving them eye contact. It's almost like it sort of simulates the experience of what we actually know that we need. We need to be seen. We need to be fully known as we really are, and we need to be loved. Fully loved and valued. And I want to suggest as we start tonight that when we meet Jesus, we find a source of identity that is not exhausting because we discover that we are fully known and fully loved. I love reading about what happened when people met Jesus in the Gospels and the way that time and time again, he just changes everything for them. I actually have a good friend whose whole life was transformed by just literally reading through the 4 Gospels and looking closely at how Jesus interacted with women. And just seeing how he treated women changed the way she saw herself completely. And I just want to show you a couple of sentences written in a letter by one of the people who met Jesus, just to kind of describe that transformation. So this is Paul, and he writes, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." These are such profound words. They get to the heart of the mystery of Christianity, which is that Jesus actually takes hold of us. He unites us to himself so that it's as if our old self, all of our sin and failure and shame, all of our guilt, all of our selfishness, all of that, it's as if it has been crucified with Jesus when he died for us on the cross. It's been buried with him and it's gone, it's dealt with, it's done. And then he raises us from the dead in his resurrection from the dead so that we're living this whole new life connected with him. And so Paul is saying, now that Jesus has taken hold of me, the old me, the I without Jesus, just doesn't exist anymore. Paul is absolutely not trying to find his identity by looking in the mirror, looking within himself, not at all. Instead, he is sat looking straight at Jesus and seeing Jesus look back at him. He says, "I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." Paul says, I live by looking at Jesus. And Jesus looks back at me with the kind of love that would give anything for me. In fact, better than that, the kind of love that has given everything for me. This is the kind of identity and worth that we discover in Jesus because we know with him that we are fully known and fully loved. We are known exactly as we are. You know, Jesus is God. We can't hide anything from him. There is no point, but we don't have to hide anything from him. He knows it all. He sees all of our failures, our flaws, all the things that we're ashamed of that we wouldn't want anybody ever to see. He knows it all. He sees us exactly as we are. He sees that so clearly that he knew he had to die for us to deal with all of that, to bury it. And yet, even though he knows us completely, he loves us utterly. He knew that he had to die for us, but he loved us so much that he was glad to die for us. That is how completely and passionately Jesus loves us. He knows you to the darkest depths, but he loves you to death. And that is an incredible relief. It is so liberating. I remember one particular time in the middle of my degree where I was just I was collapsing. I was kind of burnt out. I think I just exhausted myself trying to kind of prove myself in too many different directions at once. And I reached a point where I just felt empty and I was kind of doubting everything in my life and I didn't want to do anything. And I remember one morning waking, the alarm going off, and just the first thought that went through my head was just, please don't make me do this day. But then the second thought that went through my head was, do you know what? if you didn't get out of bed today, if you just disappointed every person who is expecting something from you today, if you were not a good person in any way, if you achieved nothing meaningful, if you just lay here doing nothing all day, do you know what? At the end of the day, God would love you just as passionately as he does right now. And I remember that just washing over me. And I think I almost laughed out loud. And it certainly gave me the strength that I needed to get up and to do the day. It is so liberating because you know that you don't have to impress Jesus. You can't. You don't have to earn his approval. He's given his love to you for free and forever. And that allows you to go out and actually try to love other people and to do things that are worthwhile, but all of that without the pressure of your identity hanging on it. So if you think back to that line from Encanto, when your identity comes from Jesus, it's not, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. It's underneath the surface. I am sure that I am worth the Son of God giving his life for me. So how can I be of service? If we stop looking around at other people and we stop trying to look inside to find our sense of identity and worth, if we look at Jesus, we know that we're fully known and we're fully loved, and it means we can relax.